When firefighters walk into a burning building, there's one rule that they all understand, and that is that you move together, or someone may not make it home. When you step onto the fireground, chaos is going to be everywhere. You're going to have smoke rolling through hallways, heat building up inside of walls, and a fire that's moving faster than anyone wants it to. But something interesting happens in that moment. For you and your fire crew, all the differences, they disappear. The different personalities, the different opinions, the different beliefs about this world. None of that matters because when the building is on fire, the mission becomes very simple: work together or the fire wins. And lately, I've really been kind of thinking about that because when you look around the world right now, it feels like the temperature is rising just about everywhere. And conflict is breaking out, communities are being divided, people are turning against each other. You've got the powerful preying on the weak now. And some days it honestly feels like the entire world is starting to burn uncontrollably. Uncontrollably. But instead of grabbing the hose, we're arguing with people standing next to us. We're picking sides and we're drawing lines in the sand. We're turning our neighbors into our enemies. And the strange thing about fires is they love it when people fight each other, because while we're arguing about who started the fire, nobody's grabbing that hose, and well, the building, it just keeps burning. When I was in the fire department, the crew that I served with was made up of a lot of different people who had different backgrounds. They had different opinions about life, and they definitely had different personalities that didn't always line up. And believe me, sometimes we disagreed. But when that alarm went off, none of that mattered, because the moment we stepped onto that fire ground, we trusted each other with our lives. Every person on that team had a role. Someone was on the nozzle, someone was feeding hose, someone was forcing doors, and someone was searching rooms. And the movement between everybody depended on one another. And if one person on that team decided to fight the team of firefighters instead of the fire, that whole operation was compromised. And that's the part that really just keeps coming back to me lately, because the fires in this world, they're getting a lot bigger and they're getting a lot hotter, and they're definitely getting a lot more dangerous. And we keep working against each other by all the fighting that we're doing. In the fire, it really honestly doesn't care what side you're on. And if we're going to make it through this moment in history, the solution, I don't think, is nearly as complicated as a lot of us think. It starts with some of the basics. First, we've got to start listening to each other instead of labeling each other. And most people today, we don't even really listen anymore. We hear a sentence and then we decide what team somebody is on, and then we just shut them out. But when firefighters train together and we work together, we listen very carefully to each other because the details matter. Now, try asking somebody why they believe what they believe. You still might disagree, but understanding why someone, or understanding, I should say, someone that changes the way that we see and treat them. Second thing we can do is we can start helping the people closest to us. Big problems in the world can make people feel powerless, all right? Firefighters, they don't start by just trying to save an entire city all at once. They start with the room that's in front of them. And your version of that might just be checking up on a neighbor, helping somebody who's struggling with something, supporting somebody who needs to be supported. Those small acts of support, they build up stronger communities. And strong communities are much harder to divide. Third thing that we can start doing is we must stop feeding this fire division. Every time we choose outrage over understanding, we're adding oxygen to that fire. Not every disagreement needs to be turned into a war. I'll say that again. Not every disagreement needs to be turned into a war. Sometimes the most powerful thing that we can do is step back and ask ourselves, is this helping anyone, or is it just making the fire bigger? And finally, remember the mission. That is the final piece here that I want to throw down on you today. On a fire ground, the mission is simple: protect life. Everything else comes second. Maybe our mission as people should be just as simple: leave the world better for the next generation than the one that we inherited. And even if it does seem like right now that life is kind of an out of control dumpster fire, we can still fix it. I spent a lot of my life trying to figure out what my purpose was. And for a long time, I thought purpose had to be, something huge, something that would change the entire world, possibly. Uh, but the longer that I live, the more I think my purpose might be simpler than that. And maybe part of my purpose is just being my brother's keeper, watching out for the people beside me, making sure that the people around me, that they make it home. Because that's what we did on the fire ground. We looked out for each other, we moved together, and we made damn sure that nobody got left behind. And maybe that's what we're supposed to be doing in the world right now. Maybe our purpose isn't to try and win against each other. Maybe it's to make sure we all get to go home together so that way we all win. Because when you really think about it, this whole world, it is a lot like a burning building. It's chaotic, it's unpredictable, and sometimes it feels like that heat is just really coming down on us. But the thing about a burning building is this: no one gets out alone. Because the only way any of us make it home is if we decide to bring each other with. So, let me ask you something. What's one way that you think that we could start to work together again and start making these fixes? Throw them down in the comments, because I'd really like to hear your answer. Other than that, thanks guys, and do me a big old favor, stay the course.